The stars above Vorathi no longer shined as they once did. The skies, once filled with glowing moons and ships dancing in harmony, were now quiet and cold. The planet was dying. The Kalari, once the strongest warrior race in the Velmari system, were falling. Their cities, built with crystal towers and fire metal bridges, stood half-empty. The air was thin, the soil dry, and the great rivers had turned to dust. The warrior clans, proud and fearless, had split apart after years of war and blame. In a temple deep in the mountains of Rake's Spine, 3 sisters stood alone. Vesha, the eldest, wore silver armor etched with symbols of her bloodline. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tired. Maru, the middle sister, sharpened her twin blades against a stone wall, restless and angry. The youngest, Lyra, stood by a glowing pool, staring at the stars. Her heart was heavy with worry. "Our bloodline is fading," Vesha said. "No children born in 7 cycles, no new warriors. If we do nothing, our clan ends with us." Maru slammed her blade into the ground. "The council has no answers. They just argue. We need action, not more words." Lyra turned slowly. "Then maybe it's time we do something different. Something no Kalari has done before." Vesha frowned. "You speak of the scrolls, don't you?" Lyra nodded. She pulled out a small cube, no bigger than her palm. She touched its center, and a blue light rose above it, forming symbols and images. "Long ago, our ancestors wrote of a species from another system. Their bodies are strong, minds adaptable. They are not of this galaxy, but one of them once solved a disease we could not. We erased that history to keep our pride. But maybe pride is not what we need." Vesha looked at the images. A creature shorter than them, without armor, but with eyes full of fire. "A human. Mai scoffed. "You want to bring a human here? To our sacred home? For what? Their help?" "For our survival," Lyra whispered. There was silence. The sisters had fought many battles against machines, beasts, and even their own kind. But this battle was different. It was against time. Far away, in a lonely relay station floating near the edge of the Sol system, Rai worked in silence. He was not a soldier, not a hero. He fixed machines. He watched data streams and aligned satellites. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful, and he liked peace. His station was old. A silver box with blinking lights, spinning slowly above a cold gas planet. Rai lived alone there, reading old books, fixing wires, and talking to himself. He had signed up for the job to escape noise. But now he missed voices. He sat by the control panel, eating a simple meal. When the screen blinked with a message, "Signal detected, unidentified language," Rai leaned forward. The symbols weren't human. Curved lines, glowing letters, it looked almost like music frozen in time. He touched a few keys, running the data through the translator. Nothing worked. So he did what he always did. He thought slowly, patiently. He looked for patterns, sounds, shapes. 3 hours passed, then 5. Suddenly, a tone came through. A soft, low hum, then a voice not in English, but smooth and clear. Rai didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. Someone was calling. Back on Vorathi, Lyra gasped as her cube blinked. The signal had returned. After all this time, someone had answered. "He heard us," she whispered. "The human heard us." Vesha's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Maru stepped forward. "Then what are we waiting for?" Vesha took a deep breath. "If we do this, we break the ancient law. But if we don't, we break the future. Prepare the ship." Rai didn't see the ship come. It was silent, faster than light. One moment, he was inside the station. The next, the air shifted. The lights flickered. And then, everything stopped. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't on the station anymore. He stood inside a large chamber made of glowing crystal and soft metal. Strange shapes floated in the air, lights, screens, languages. In front of him stood 3 figures, tall and strong. Their armor shimmered like water under moonlight. The one in front stepped forward. Her voice was deep but calm. "You are Rai," she said. He nodded slowly. "Yes, where am I?" "You are safe." "We are Kalari. My name is Vesha. These are my sisters, Maru and Lyra." Rai looked at them. They were different but not frightening. Their eyes showed power but also sadness. "Why am I here?" he asked. Lyra stepped closer. "Because you hurt us. And because you might be the key to our future." Rai blinked. "Me? I'm just a technician." Vesha looked at him with quiet strength. "Not anymore." Rai stood still, trying to understand what had just happened. One moment, he was on a lonely space station near Jupiter. The next, he was on an alien ship, facing 3 tall warrior sisters who spoke his name like they already knew him. His heart beat fast, but somehow he didn't feel afraid. The one called Vesha stood tall, her armor shining under the soft blue light of the ship. She looked strong and calm. Her voice was steady as she spoke again. "You are Rai, you are human. And you heard our signal." Rai nodded slowly. "Yes, I saw it. Strange symbols, music and voices. I didn't understand it, but I followed it." "Only one with a special mind could do that," said Lyra, stepping closer. Her eyes were gentle. "The signal was not just data. It was old knowledge hidden. For centuries, you opened it." Rai frowned. "I was just curious. I like solving problems." Maru, the middle sister, crossed her arms. "Your curiosity woke us, and now you're here. Like it or not, you're part of this." He looked at the 3 sisters, feeling the weight of their gaze. "Why me? What do you want from me?" Vesha moved toward a screen on the wall. With a wave of her hand, glowing images appeared: cities in ruin, dying plants, and Kalari warriors sitting silently in empty halls. "Our world is fading," she said. "Our bloodlines are weak. Our people cannot survive many more years. We have strength, but not growth. We have will, but no future." She looked at Rai. "Your kind has something we lost." Rai blinked. "You mean technology?" "No." Lyra said softly. "You have something more important. Balance, change, heart," Maru added, "and your biology. It fits with ours. Long ago, your kind helped us in secret. It worked, but the elders erased that truth out of shame. They said we were pure and didn't need others. But now we do," Vesha said. Rai tried to understand. "You brought me here to help your people survive? With my genes?" The sisters nodded. Rai stepped back. "That's a lot to ask. I'm not a hero. I fix wires. I watch stars. I don't even have a big family. Why me?" Lyra looked at him with kindness. "Because you listened. And because the bond has already started." "What bond?" She touched a crystal on her wrist. A small light appeared, showing his brain patterns matched with something ancient and hidden in the Kalari system. He wasn't just the first human to respond to the signal. He was the only one who could. "You're not just here for your body," Vesha said. "We need your mind. Your way of thinking, your spirit." Maru stepped closer. "But we don't trust easily. You must prove yourself." Rai raised his eyebrows. "How?" Vesha touched another panel. "There are trials. Not battles of strength, but trials of wisdom, choice, and heart. If you pass them, we accept you fully. You become part of our future. Not as a tool, but as a partner." Ray was silent for a moment. He thought about his quiet station, his routine life, and how nobody had ever truly needed him before. "Not like this," he nodded. "I'll try. I don't know if I can pass your trials, but I'll try." Vesha gave a small nod of approval. "Then we begin at dawn." That night, Rai stayed in a guest chamber on the ship. The room was quiet, warm, with walls that glowed like moonlight. He sat near a window, looking out at the stars. Lyra came to visit. "You're scared," She said. A little, Rai admitted, but also curious. She smiled. That's a good sign. Rai looked at her. Do you really think I can help? I believe you already are. You listened when no one else did. You came without knowing what we wanted. And you're still here. They sat in silence for a while. Then Rai asked, Do your people really believe a human can be part of your future? Not all of them, Lyra said. Many will fight it. Some fear change. But I believe in something better. I believe in new paths, Rai smiled. That's something humans say too. At first light, Rai was taken to a large hall deep inside the ship. The walls shimmered with ancient carvings. A glowing circle stood in the center. This was the trial room. Vesha, Maru, and Lyra stood at the edge. The first trial, Vesha said, is the trial of insight. A small puzzle appeared in front of Rai, dozens of glowing pieces floating in the air, moving like stars. He was told to create a shape that represented unity. There was no time limit. No instructions. He took a breath and let his mind work, slowly, carefully, like he always did when fixing broken satellites. He remembered how one piece connects to the next. How balance is more than just logic, it's feeling. He placed the last piece. The shape looked like a tree growing from stone. A symbol from earth. But somehow it made sense. The room glowed brighter. Maru nodded. Not bad, human. Rai gave a small smile. It's just a start. Vesha looked at her sisters. Prepare. The next trial. Rai looked ahead, unsure of what was coming, but ready to face it. The great chamber slowly dimmed after the first trial. The tree-shaped puzzle still floated in the air, glowing softly, as if alive. Rai looked at it with quiet pride. He had passed the first test not by force, but by understanding. The three sisters stood silently, watching him. Then Vesha stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. You have shown insight. Now we test something deeper. The second trial is the trial of judgment. Rai blinked. Judgment? Maru spoke next. This is not about right or wrong. It is about choices. We will give you a situation. You must choose what to do. There is no perfect answer. Lyra looked at him with soft eyes. But the choice you make will show who you truly are. Rai took a deep breath. I understand, I'll do my best. The room changed. The glowing circle disappeared, and the floor beneath Rai shifted. Suddenly, the walls around him turned into moving images. It was a simulation, but everything felt real. He found himself in a large Kalari village, beautiful but damaged. Fires burned in some corners. People ran, shouting. An enemy had attacked. Buildings had fallen. In the center of the village were two groups. One group of wounded Kalari children trapped under rubble, and another group of old warriors holding back a group of attackers at the outer wall. A voice echoed in the air, calm and serious. You can only help one group in time. The children under the building, or the warriors at the wall. Shoes. Rai froze. His heart beat faster. He looked back and forth. The children needed saving, or they would be crushed. The warriors needed help, or the attackers would break through and destroy the village. It wasn't fair. But it was the test. He thought deeply. The children were the future, but without the wall, the whole village could fall. Still, if the children lived, the village could rebuild. He made his choice. He ran to the trapped children, using tools around him to lift stones and open a path. It was hard work, but he didn't stop. One by one, he pulled them out, even as the sound of battle grew louder. The moment the last child was freed, the simulation ended. The images vanished. He stood once again in the glowing chamber. Vesha looked at him for a long moment. You chose the young. You let the warriors fall. Rai lowered his eyes. Yes, I did. I couldn't save both. Maru tilted her head. Why? Not save the fighters. They were strong. You could have helped them hold the wall. I know, Rai said. But children are not strong. They can't protect themselves. If they die, the future dies with them. Warriors die with honor. Children, they die with silence. I couldn't let that happen. Silence followed. Then Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand gently on his arm. You made a hard choice. A brave one. Not all Kaleri would do the same. Vesha nodded once. The trial is past. Rai let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. That evening, Rai sat near the viewing window again. The stars outside were quiet, but beautiful. Lyra joined him once more, carrying a soft blue fruit. This is called Shari, she said. It grows only on mountaintops in Vorathi. I brought it for you, Rai smiled. Thank you. I've never seen anything like it. She watched him taste it. It was sweet, with a little sharpness like blueberries and mint mixed together. You're doing better than we expected, Lyra said. I didn't know I'd be tested like this, Rai said. I thought you needed my biology or DNA or something. We need more than that, she said softly. We need someone who understands us, someone who listens. Someone who doesn't try to control us. Double quotes. Rai looked down. I'm not perfect. But I listen. I try to understand. That's why I believe in you, she said. Even if the others doubt. The next day, Rai was taken to a smaller chamber. This time, only Vesha and Maru entered with him. Lyra watched from above. Vesha said, the final trial is the trial of trust. A round table rose from the floor. On it were 2 cups, one blue, one gold. One cup holds a healing drink, Vesha said. The other is bitter and painful, but will not kill you. Maru stepped forward. You must choose a cup and drink it. But you must also let one of us choose the cup for you. Rai looked confused. Wait, I don't get to choose? No, Vesha said. You choose who you trust. Then they choose the drink for you. Rai looked at the 2 sisters. Vesha strong, calm, a leader. Maru sharp, bold, but difficult to read. Lyra was not part of this test. He thought carefully. Vesha was logical, but distant. Maru had been hard on him, but she had started to respect him. He looked straight at Maru. I choose her. Maru raised an eyebrow. Me? Why? Because you test everyone. But I think, deep down, you want someone to believe in you too. For a moment, Maru was silent. Then she reached out, picked the blue cup, and handed it to Rai. Rai took it and drank. The taste was smooth, cool, refreshing. The healing drink. Maru gave a small smile. You were right. The trial was passed. Later, in the Hall of Balance, the 3 sisters stood with Rai at the center. A soft light glowed around them. The 3 trials were complete. You came to us as a stranger, Vesha said. But now, you stand with us as one who understands. Maru added, you passed not with force, but with mind and heart. Lyra smiled. The bond begins now. Rai stood quietly, not as a guest, but as someone who belonged. The stars outside the Kaleri ship blinked softly, like small fires in the distance. Inside the ship, everything was peaceful for now. Rai stood on a balcony inside the ship, looking out into space. After the trials, he felt different. Stronger? No, not in body but in purpose. He felt like he mattered. Not just as a technician or a helper, but as someone who could make a real difference. Footsteps echoed behind him. He turned and saw Vesha approaching. You did well, she said. The bond between you and Lyra was real. I felt it, Rai nodded. She showed me things I never imagined. I understand your world better now. Vesha looked at the stars. Our world is beautiful, but broken. You saw what we once had. Now it's only memory. He turned toward her. But you're still here, you and your sisters. That means something still lives. Vesha gave a small smile. It was rare to see her smile. You speak like a leader. I'm not, Rai said quickly. I've never led anything. True leaders don't chase power. They accept it when others need them to. In the ship's command room, Maru checked the outer radar. Her sharp eyes narrowed. A signal blinked red on the screen. Unknown vessel. Fast. Coming closer. She pressed the alarm crystal. The ship lights turned orange. A soft voice spoke through the walls. Warning. Incoming ship detected. Within seconds, Rai and Vesha entered the command room. Lyra followed right after. What is it? Vesha asked. Maru pointed at the screen. Zorthik ship. Light-class war vessel. No response to our messages. Lyra's face turned pale. The Zorthik? Already? Rai looked confused. Who are the Zorthik? Vesha turned to him. They are a rival Kalari clan. When our people broke into smaller groups, they chose power over peace. They believe in strength only. No help from outsiders. No human bonds. Maru added. They must have learned about you. They want to stop this bond before it spreads. The enemy ship came closer. The Kalari ship had strong shields, but it was built for long travel, not battle. The Zorthik ship, on the other hand, was sharp and fast, made for ambush. A deep voice echoed through the ship's comm system. Kalari. Sisters, you have broken sacred law. You allowed a human into our path. End this now, or be destroyed. Vesha answered calmly. We have done what is right. We choose life over pride. We will not back down. A blast hit the outer wall. The ship shook. Shields down to 80%, said Lyra, checking the systems. Rai stood still, thinking fast. Is there a way to outmaneuver them? Maybe hide in the asteroid field nearby? Maru raised an eyebrow. You know space routes? I mapped this area for 2 years, Rai said. That field has magnetic rocks. Their sensors will be useless inside. Vesha nodded. Take the controls. Rai hesitated. Me? Yes, you know the path. Guide us. Rai sat in the pilot's seat, hands on the controls. Maru managed. Weapons. Lyra monitored shields. Visha stood behind them, watching calmly. The ship moved fast, gliding between dark rocks and glowing dust. The Zorthik followed, firing again. Another blast shook the ship. Sparks flew from a nearby panel. Shield. At 60%. Lyra warned. Rai focused. Turning left, narrow gap ahead. He spun the ship sideways, slipping through 2 massive rocks. The Zorthik followed, but too fast. One of their wings clipped an asteroid. Their ship tilted. Maru saw the chance. Now, she fired a pulse. Beam. It hit the Zorthik's engine. Smoke filled the space around them. They're falling back. Lyra shouted. Rai let out a breath. That was close, Vesha nodded. Good flying. He smiled slightly. Told you I was useful. After the fight, the ship entered a calm area behind the asteroid belt. The damage was not serious, but the sisters knew this was just the beginning. In the meeting room, they sat with Rai around. The central table. The Zorthik will not stop, Vesha said. They fear change. They fear what you and Lyra created. They think I'm a threat? Rai asked. To their control, yes, Maru replied. If other clans see the bond works, they may also choose peace. That would weaken the Zorthik. Lyra looked at Rai. We must go to the council soon. Show them the bond. Let them decide. Rai nodded. I'll go with you. I didn't come this far to run now. Vesha placed her hand on the table. Then, we prepare. But be warned, some on the council are as dangerous as the Zorthik. Words can hurt as much as weapons. That night, Rai sat quietly in his room, looking at the stars once more. His hands still shook from the battle, but his heart was calm. He thought of Earth so far away, yet always in his heart. He remembered his quiet life, fixing machines, and floating in silence. Now he was part of something bigger. He was not just a guest. He was part of a story that could change a whole world. The door opened softly. Lyra stepped in. You were brave today, she said. I was scared, Rai said. Honestly, even brave people feel fear, she replied. They sat together in silence. For the first time, neither of them felt alone. The Kalari ship floated quietly behind the asteroid belt, hidden from enemies for now. Inside, the atmosphere was calm but serious. The attack from the Zorthak had shown the sisters that time was short. They could not hide forever. In the hall of thought, a round room filled with glowing stones and memory crystals, Rai stood beside Lyra. Around them, soft lights pulsed like quiet heartbeats. The air felt warm, as if the room itself was alive. Lyra held a small silver orb in her hand. It looked smooth like glass, but when she touched it, it glowed blue. "This is the Heartstone," she said gently. "It holds the deepest memories of a Kalari. Only those with a true bond may use it." Rai looked at it, unsure. "Why do you want me to see your memories again?" "It's not just mine," Lyra said. "It's all of ours. Mine, Vish's, Maru's. You will see what made us who we are." Ray took a breath. "Are you sure I should see that?" She nodded. "Yes, because when we go to the council, they will ask, why should we trust a human? If you carry our memory, our pain, and our hope, you'll have the answer." Vesha and Maru entered the chamber and stood around the Heartstone. Vesha said, "This is not a test. This is trust." Maru added, "No words can explain what we are about to share. Just feel. Remember." Lyra stepped closer to Rai. "Place your hand on the stone. Don't force anything. Just let it happen." Rai reached out slowly and touched the glowing surface. Suddenly, the room disappeared. He was no longer on the ship. He stood in the middle of a great Kalari city, bright and full of life. Towers reached the sky, and people walked with pride and joy. This was Vorathi, many years ago, before the fall. He saw the sisters as young children. They laughed, played, and trained together. Their parents were strong warriors, respected by all. Their world was full of hope. Then, darkness came. An argument broke out among the leaders. Clans turned against each other. Trust was broken. War began not with outside enemies, but among their own people. Buildings burned. Families were separated. Rai saw young Lyra crying as her mother flew into battle and never returned. He saw Vesha taking her mother's sword and stepping into leadership far too early. He saw Maru training harder each day, her heart growing colder to hide her sadness. Images changed quickly, memories flowing like rivers. Rai stood in the halls of the Kalari Council, watching leaders argue, blaming others instead of finding peace. He saw the sisters standing alone in the temple, holding each other, their people fading, their world slowly dying. Then came the moment he had seen before, the moment they found the signal of Earth. Only this time he saw their hearts. Not just the idea of survival, but fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear that they would be the last. And under that fear, something stronger. Hope that maybe, just maybe, a human would understand. That a human might help them rebuild what they had lost, not with weapons, but with kindness, patience, and heart. When Rai opened his eyes, he was back in the hall of thought. His face was wet with tears. Vesha placed her hand on his shoulder. "Now you carry what we carry." Maru stepped forward. "You saw us at our weakest, yet you're still here." Rai nodded slowly. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to fix your world, but I'll never walk away from it." Lyra smiled. "That's enough." Later that day, Rai sat alone in the meditation room. He didn't speak. He just breathed slowly, thinking about all he had seen. He understood now why the sisters were so serious, so strong. Their past was full of loss. But even with all that pain, they still fought for a better future. Suddenly, the door opened. Maru stepped inside. She walked to the other side of the room and sat down. For a few moments, they said nothing. Then she spoke. "When our mother died, I felt empty." Vesha took the sword. Lyra held on to dreams. But me, I became angry. Rai looked at her. That's okay. Sometimes pain comes out as anger. Maru nodded. But when I saw you today, holding our memory, I felt something I haven't felt in years. What was it? Peace, Rai smiled. You're not alone anymore. She didn't reply, but her silence was full of meaning. That night, the sisters gathered in the strategy room. A star map glowed above the table. Vesha pointed to a bright red star. That is where the Kelari High Council will meet in 3 days. We will go there, show them the bond. Let them decide. Lyra added, we must go before the Zorthic reach them first. Maru looked at the map. If we show fear, they will laugh. But if we show unity, they will listen. Vesha turned to Rai. Are you ready to stand before them? Rai stood tall. Yes, I may not be Kelari, but I carry your truth now. That's all I need. Far across space, in a hidden command room, the Zorthic leaders watched a dark screen. On it was a message sent by a spy. The sisters are going to the council. They plan to reveal the bond. The Zorthic leader growled. Then we must stop them before they arrive. Outside the ship, several Zorthic warships powered up and turned toward the council star. The race against time had begun. The Kelari ship moved steadily toward the council star, a bright, glowing orb in the distance. Rai sat near the navigation console, his hands steady on the controls. The weight of the past days pressed on him, memories shared, trials passed. Battles fought, but he felt ready. The sisters gathered in the main hall. Vesha's voice was calm but strong. The council is the last hope. If they accept the bond, the future will change. If they reject it, the Zorthic will rule by fear. Maru paced slowly, her sharp eyes scanning the room. They fear what they don't understand. A human among Kelari is a shock. Lyra nodded. But we have shown that bond is more than blood. It is trust and respect. Rai looked at the sisters, feeling the truth in their words. I don't know what the council will say, but I will stand with you. As they approached the council world, the sky turned dark with countless ships. The star's orbit was crowded with vessels from all clans, each shining with different colors and flags. A large, circular space station floated in the center. It was the council hall, built from shining metals and crystal, a symbol of Kelari. History and power. Vesha turned to Rai. Remember what you carry. Our memories, our pain, our hope. Rai nodded. The sisters led him through the station's grand halls. Warriors, diplomats, and elders watched them pass. Some whispered, some stared. The air was thick with tension. At last, they reached the council chamber, a vast room with seats arranged in a circle around a glowing platform. The High Council elders sat waiting. Their faces were stern, their eyes sharp. The eldest elder stood and spoke. Sisters of Kelari, you bring an outsider to our council. A human, explain. Vesha stepped forward. We bring a bond that may save our dying world. This human Rai has passed our trials. He carries our memories and our trust. One elder snorted. A human? You ask us to believe a human can be part of Kelari fate? Maru's voice cut through the chamber. Not believe, see, listen. He carries what we all fear to face. Rai stepped forward, heart pounding. He spoke simply, honestly. I am not Kelari by birth, but I carry your truth. I have seen your past through your memories. I feel your pain and your hope. I stand with you because I believe in a future where we are stronger together. The chamber was silent. Then an elder spoke slowly. Change is hard. Fear makes us fight what is different, but survival is harder. Another elder nodded. If the bond works, it may save us all. Vesha smiled faintly. We ask for a chance, one united future. A vote was called. The chamber filled with quiet. Murmurs as votes were counted. Rai and the sisters waited. Finally, the eldest elder spoke. By the stars and by our laws, the Council accepts the bond between Kalari and human. May this be a new dawn. Cheers and whispers filled the chamber. Some elders stood, others nodded slowly. Outside, the Zorthic fleet appeared near the Council orbit. Their ships were dark and menacing. A message blasted through the Council communication system. Surrender the human. End this rebellion. Or face destruction. The Council elders turned to the sisters and Rai. Vesha raised her hand. We will not surrender hope. We will fight for the future. Rai felt a surge of determination. The battle began. The Kalari fleet, backed by the Council. Forces moved in defense. Rai worked beside Maru at the weapons console. His hands steady despite the chaos. Energy beams crossed space. Ships twisted and dodged. Vesha led the front line with her personal ship. Fast and strong, Lyra protected the shields, guiding power where it was needed most. Rai's heart pounded as the fight raged around them. But he felt the bond stronger than ever, not just between him and the sisters, but with every Kalari fighter. Together, they pushed back the Zorthic. Hours passed. The battle reached its peak near a giant asteroid. The Zorthic flagship charged. Vesha's ship raced to meet it. A fierce exchange shook the space around them. Then, with Rai's help, Maru fired a precise blast that disabled the enemy's engines. The Zorthic flagship slowed, then stopped. The remaining Zorthic ships retreated. Victory belonged to the Kalari and their new ally. After the battle, the Council held a great ceremony. Rai stood with the sisters as the Council elders praised the bond and its promise. Vesha spoke to the gathered crowd. Today, we choose unity over pride. We choose hope over fear. Maru smiled, looking at Rai. You were brave. You became family. Lyra's eyes shone with tears. Together we will rebuild. Rai felt proud not because of strength or skill, but because he had helped build a future. As the stars shone bright above, Rai looked out into space. He thought of Earth, of quiet days and lonely nights. Now his journey was far from over. He was part of something greater. A future where humans and Kalari stood side by side. Where hope could shine brighter than the stars. The great halls of the Kalari Council glowed softly under the light of the twin suns. Outside, the stars shone like tiny diamonds, watching over a new era. Rai stood beside the three warrior sisters Vesha, Maru, and Lyra in the center of the council chamber. The air buzzed with hope and quiet excitement. Their journey had been long and difficult, but now a new chapter was beginning. Vesha looked at Rai with a proud smile. You have done more than any of us hoped. Rai shook his head gently. I did not do it alone. You trusted me, guided me, and gave me a chance. Maru nodded. Trust is not easy for our kind, but you earned it with patience and courage. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes bright. The bond between human and Kalari is now a symbol. It reminds us all that the future is made together. Rai looked out the large window at the stars beyond. I remember when I first saw your signal, wondering what it meant. Now I know it was a call for friendship. The council had agreed to create a new alliance, one that would bring humans and Kalari together in friendship and strength. Plans began to form. New schools to teach both Kalari and human ways, ships designed to carry mixed crews, missions to explore distant worlds side by side. Rai felt excitement he had never known before. He was not just a visitor anymore. He was part of a family, part of a future. One afternoon, Rai found himself walking with Lyra along the quiet halls of the ship. Do you ever miss your home? She asked softly. Every day, Rai admitted. But now I feel like I have two homes. Lyra smiled. That is the gift of the bond. They stopped near a window, watching a distant planet spin slowly in space. Rai said, What do you hope? For the future? Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. Peace for our people, a chance to heal. And a chance to learn from each other. Rai nodded. I hope that too. Meanwhile, Maru and Vesha prepared to lead a mission to bring other Kalari clans to the new alliance. We will face many challenges, Maru said as they planned, but together we are stronger, Vesha replied. The sisters believed in the future they had fought to create. Weeks later, the new Kalari Human Alliance ship set out on its first journey beyond the known stars. Rai stood on the bridge, watching as the stars stretched into lines of light. Beside him, the three sisters smiled. We made this future, Vesha said quietly. Rai felt a warmth in his chest. The stars ahead were full of mysteries. But with friends by his side, he knew they could face anything. That night, Rai sat alone under the stars on the deck. He thought of Earth, his quiet home far away. He thought of the sisters, the trials, the memories shared. He smiled, feeling ready for whatever came next. A soft voice spoke behind him, Rai. He turned to see Lyra standing there. Thank you, she said simply. For what? Rai asked. For believing in us. For becoming part of our story. Rai nodded. I think this is just the beginning. Lyra smiled and looked up at the stars. Together, she said. As the ship sailed into the endless night, the bond between human and Kalari shone bright, a light of hope and unity. A future built not on fear, but on trust. Not on division, but on friendship. The stars awaited their new story, and Rai was ready to write it.